Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing just dandy, ready to talk some Marvel Rivals. This is a game that is getting more details. It isn't quite out, but there's been some gameplay released, and we've got some more details around it. I thought it'd be fun to talk about, so let's jump in. This is a new entry into the small-scale shooter that we've been talking about in the last few weeks, months, whatever. There's this new kind of like middle ground shooter. Instead of the big AAA, big, massive games, there's smaller experiences. You can kind of play multiple shooters rather than just sinking your time all into Call of Duty or Battlefield. And Marvel Rivals is a very much inspired by Overwatch, just with Marvel superhero, so it actually looks pretty fun.
The stuff I've seen of it so far, it definitely looks. It's not really my type of game per se, but it looks fun enough that I think I'll probably try it when it launches. I actually applied for they did the closed beta things.
Yeah,
I put my name in for that, and obviously didn't get it, but it looks very fun.
There's another one coming up.
Yeah, I think I've applied for that again. So hopefully, because I just want to see what it plays like. It looks fun. It's one of those games that I just don't know if it will be for me, but it definitely looks intriguing, that's for sure.
Yeah, the hero shooter space is something that a lot of games have taken inspiration from, but there's only as far as I'm aware, the big boy is Overwatch. Overwatch is the granddaddy of this whole kind of genre and really sets the standard for this, and everyone is comparing it to Overwatch, rightly so, because it's a hero team-based PvP shooter, which is exactly what Overwatch is.
Yeah. It also it reminds me a little bit of Valorant too, not quite on the same level as Overwatch, but
art style.
I think more the art style is a little bit more similar. That sort of it's I don't know, cartoony, but I don't know, because Overwatch is, I guess, kind of cartoony too, but it's just it's more in line with Valorant in that sense, but it definitely looks just like Overwatch with freaking Spider-Man and stuff running around, which is, for me, that's an awesome concept. Like, if you told me we were going to get a Marvel multiplayer game, I'd probably be like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. And especially it's a shooter, really, it sounds weird, a Marvel shooter, but I don't know, it looks cool to me. It looks very fun. Like I said, I don't know if it'll be the game that I play and go, oh, yep, this is my game for the next, year. But it definitely looks enjoyable enough that I want to give it a try and see if it's actually worth it or not.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. It's got levels of destruction that I was very surprised to see. It's like, oh, wow. Other games other than Battlefield can actually have destruction, and it looked pretty good. Wow. What a amazing thing. Yeah, so there's some... The gameplay that they've released looks really good, looks really solid, looks quite fun. I never really got into Overwatch. I played it, but I didn't get super into it like my friends and brothers did. But I can see the enjoyment of it. A friend of mine gets sucked into Overwatch for month-long spans until he just eventually gets so fed up with the game, he gets himself banned, and then it's kind of like a wash, rinse, repeat cycle of he's done with it, he's over it, and then a couple months go past, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll set up a new account or whatever, and it starts all over again.
Yeah, I haven't ever had a full period of playing Overwatch, but when it launched, the first one anyway, I haven't really played Overwatch 2 because I've only really heard bad things about it, but Overwatch
it's
1...
same game, really.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with it. Overwatch 1 was good fun when it first launched. And again, it's not really my type of game. For some reason, I don't know, because I don't dislike hero shooters either. But it's just not, I don't know, it's just not quite my type of game. But I feel like this one is a little bit more middle ground in that this could be the type of game that gets me really hooked on that type of, I guess, that genre, where I don't think Overwatch would ever really get me fully hooked into that. So I think that's why I'm keen to try it, just to see if it it could actually sink its hooks in and make me like a Marvel Rivals player. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it will, but it definitely has the potential to.
Oh yeah, like as soon as I saw this gameplay trailer, I was like, I am intrigued. Like when it was just it was just kind of the cinematic stuff. I was like, oh, here we go. I'm kind of over cinematics and trailers. Like, either announce the game with gameplay or wait until you can have
I think especially with multiplayer, like if like God of War does one, it's like whatever. We know what we're going to get, so that's different.
Yeah.
But if it's multiplayer, like, I don't know. There's no point doing cinematic stuff for multiplayer, in my opinion, unless it's like
I haven't played it, so I don't care about the characters.
Just I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe for like a teaser trailer, I guess it's fine. But once we kind of know a bit about the game, then it's just like, all right, just show me the actual game. I don't really care about how good your cinematics are and all that, because that's not in a single player game. It's part of the game a little bit is the cutscenes and the cinematic side.
Yeah.
In a multiplayer game, no one cares about that. I'm not waiting for the pre-game cinematics of showing the map off, and I can't wait the actual gameplay.
What are you talking about? That's my favorite part of the game, Sammy. No, like I love. So I'm really torn about the first person shooter and just video game space in general. Like we've got some great standout games, we've got some good tentpole kinds of shooters, but like in general, the FPS space right now is just super oversaturated. Like if I see another freaking live service game, like they just had, as we're recording this, we're recording two at a time this time, but as we're recording this, PlayStation had their PlayStation Showcase, showcasing some of the games that are going to be coming out this year. And one of them was this game called Concord, and I was like, oh, interesting, what's this? And they had a much too long like cinematic section that I was just like, seriously, are we going to get gameplay? They eventually did get gameplay, but then they were like, this is a live service first-person shooter game. I was like, sorry, I'm not interested. Like, I'm kind of burnt out with first-person shooter games like that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you feeling?
I feel especially when it's... Because I'm going to assume... I haven't watched the showcase, but I've heard about Concord in the past. I'm going to assume it's a exclusive to PlayStation. That makes it even more annoying. I don't know why. It'd be the same, and it's not just because it's PlayStation. If it was just an Xbox exclusive shooter, I'd be like, why are you guys doing... Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I'm very much in the same sort of mindset with shooters at the moment, which is weird because the finals came out late last year and I had a blast with that. I'm having a blast with X-Defiant. Star Wars Hunters comes out.
But they don't strike me as like the overtly live servicey type games, even though they have got huge live service aspects to them. Clearly, they don't strike me as like in your face key part of the marketing kind of thing like Concord did, of like, this is a first person shooter live service game.
Yeah. I think the thing with X-Defiant is that they have shown so many times now that they are listening to the players and they're essentially putting whatever we want in the game within reason. So I'm okay with a live service and like paying for skins and all that if the game's good, and if like my thing is make the game good, make the gameplay loop fun that I want to keep coming back and playing, and then just monetize as much of it as you want, provided there's no pay to win. I don't care if the skins cost freaking $50. I don't care. If the game's fun, I'll want to play it. I think my issue is when the game is launched, like you kind of said, as like it's clearly a core part of the entire game. It's like the DNA of the game is live service. That is when it becomes a bit of an issue to me, because they're selling the live service. I don't care for the live service. If the game's good enough, I'll pay for skins and all that. But like, you can't sell me on like, hey, this thing's gonna have a battle pass. It's like, I don't care if it has a battle pass. Is the game good or not? Like that's all I care about. So I'm a bit in the same space, I think. Just kind of, I don't know what it is. It's probably just also me just getting older. I just like games that are just nice and relaxing and fun. I don't want everything to have to be, which is weird because with XDefiant, I've been saying like I'm so glad to have a game that I can grind again, but I don't want everything I ever play to be a grind and have to pay for everything and everything's a live service and stuff. I don't want everything to be that, and that's kind of what it does feel like a bit with the current day, like the current day setup of everything just seems like it has to be a freaking live service, and I don't know, man, it's just getting boring. It's just stale, I feel. It's just a stale time in the whole freaking gaming. It's not even just shooters. There's so many games now that like have got, you even look at like say Ubisoft doing Outlaws, that has got like the season pass element to it, which to be fair is just DLC, but it's being marketed like it's a freaking live service game. It's not. It's a single player game that is going to have DLC, but they're almost marketing it as like, hey, pay for the deluxe edition and you get the season pass for free. It's like, stop trying to sell me things. It's just make a game that I want to buy and then I will buy it, equaling the same thing as if you're trying to sell me a live service or whatever. Like, I will pay for the things that are good, but if you're trying to sell me on the live service or just these gimmicky buzzwords that all these boomer freaking CEOs keep thinking up, you're only going to just annoy me. And it's the same. It's not just me. It's everyone. Everyone's in the same boat. Like, stop trying to sell us stuff like that. It's just not, I don't know. It's not what we want. They clearly just have, I don't know. They're just not as in tune as they really need to be, I think, a lot of these companies.
Yeah. It's a lot of trends chasing. Like we've talked about before, it makes sense that a lot of the game industry is going to this direction of smaller scale games that are live service. Because like we've said before, they're a lot less expensive to make. They take a lot fewer people to upkeep. And generally, you can address them much quicker. So there's a lot of benefits to it. But this the decisions that are being made for a lot of these games isn't the fact that they have a good idea for a shooter. It's the fact that they need to make a live service game.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first decision that's made. It's not, oh, hey, I have a great idea for this experience that would be great for a live service. It's like, okay, we're going to make a live service game. What kind of live service game are we going to make?
Yeah,
like,
that's actually
first-person
such
shooter.
a good point. That does feel how they're made, doesn't it? They're thinking up a live service and then they build a game around that instead of making a good game and then put a live service in it. I think that's what makes it feel stale to me, is that a lot of these games do feel like they've thought of what they can monetize and then they've built a little game to go along with that. Rather than, I think that's why with XDefiant, I'm okay with how that, because that's realistically no different. It's a live service, but it feels like they said, hey, let's make this small scale arcade shooter like the old school Call of Duties with like a mix, like the concept of it being a mix of all the Ubisoft like IPs. That's a great concept. Like, that's clear. They haven't just thrown that in there for the sake of the live service. Now it lends itself very well to the live service because now we're going to get a bunch of skins and stuff from our favorite factions from those games. But you can tell that was baked into the game from the start. All the other stuff to do with the game is clearly inspired by wanting to make a fun game, not a live service. And then from there, they can do a really good live service because they've got a good game in place. And I think that's why that doesn't feel boring to me. But yeah, the game's like, and to be fair, I haven't watched the Concord like trailer and stuff like that, but I have heard about that game in the past. And it's a little bit the same with, there's that marathon game coming out that I think Bungie's working on.
Bungie.
Yeah, like that. I just am certain that's not going to be good. Just because I just feel like it's going to be the same thing. Just how can we, like, what can we do to make money, and then let's build a game around it. I can already just tell from the first trailer that we got that they're already showing off a bunch of skins for, like, they show like the main character and then they just show them in a bunch of different skins and stuff, and it's like, you're already trying to sell me on, I don't even know what the game is like, and you're trying to sell me on skins.
No connection to the players, no connection to the characters, and you're like, oh yeah, what if there's a pink gun or a zebra print hat, or what about this space person? It's like, if I care about the game and have a fun experience, I'm more likely to give you money for said experience.
Yep.
Not the other way around.
Exactly. That's my. I think that's how I would summarize how I feel about the FPS genre at the moment, because it does feel weird saying I'm bored of live services while I'm having an absolute blast with XDefiant, and the finals were the same.
But I think there can only be so many live service games. Like, I think one person can only play. I mean, for me, I don't pay for any of the season passes. I don't do any of that. I just play the game. And for me, I've been hopping in between finals and XDefiant. And yes, that's a little bit of a mind meld in terms of like going from the different game style experience in terms of like how the game plays. But like going in between those two games, I feel perfectly fine with. They both have shorter experiences, which is typically what I want with a small scale shooter. And when I have the time, it's only going to be 15 to 30 minutes. And it's much easier to hop in between those kinds of games. But like, other than that, I don't know if I could support another one. And I will amend my statement. I paid for the Halo Infinite one when that came out, and when I was pouring a crap ton of time into that game, like that was the game I grinded in hardcore. I was ranking up in the competitive side of things, and then for some reason I just dropped off. But I think for me it's 2 games.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I can't balance too many games at once. I think for me it's realistically I always tend to have like one, usually multiplayer game, which is usually a shooter, but it can sometimes, in the past, has been like sports games or whatever. Always just like one key multiplayer game, and then sometimes I can have another that's like when I'm just like maybe a more casual one, and then maybe like a single player game, or at most 2 single player games that I can have all of those games on rotation. But yeah, I can't be playing XDefiant and the finals and the new Battlefield and the next Call of Duty, and there's no chance. I can only play like so many of those type of games, and that's probably what also makes it feel stale, is that there's so many, and realistically none of them are that good. Like, I'm having a lot of fun with XDefiant. It's not the best game I've ever played. It's just fun because it's like not quite as sweaty as the other ones, but it isn't. I'm not playing that game thinking, oh my god, this is the best shooter I've ever played. Like, it's a 7.58 out of 10 shooter, but it's just good fun. And that's kind of the state of the whole shooter like genre at the moment, is that's what I'm saying is like the best shooter out right now is at most 8 out of 10. Like, that's not good. The best one should be 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? But it's not, because none of them are not. They're not being built to be good games, unfortunately. They're just being built to make money, and I get it. I do get it, but you can do both. You can make a good game that makes money. They're not mutually exclusive. It's like they think you can only make money if the game maybe cuts corners to save a bit of money so that you can keep that. It's not how it works. Pour the money into the game, make it good, and it will just make that money back. But it just feels like these companies aren't doing that at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just feels really stale right now. It just feels like it feels very clear that we're all just numbers on a spreadsheet in a lot of these new games that are coming out, rather than like, let's make something for the players. And I think that's where XDefiant's a little bit more different, because they specifically went into that development experience and they said, hey, this is the kind of game that we want. This is the game that we are talking with our community with. We're getting feedback from our playtest sessions. We're getting feedback on Twitter and online forums. And we're going to address that as we develop it to make sure that we're identifying the game that our players want to play. And I think that's where a lot of this changes, is when you go into that experience and say, hey, let's go that back and forth. Let's try and get this piece together like we need it to.
Yeah, that is the key thing for me, is to... Like, that is, even if the game isn't that good, that's what really sells me on a game like XDefiant, where I know that I'm actually being heard and what the community wants is actually being listened to. There's already things. The game's been out a week and a half as we're recording this, not even. And there's already like core gameplay things that people have been complaining about, and the developers have already said like, all right, we're already looking into that, and we're going to get that done in the next update or 2. which are like fundamental changes to the gameplay in terms of like the movement and stuff. They are listening to us. When you compare that to Call of Duty, there's that many times that I've been playing Call of Duty where there's a gun that's just clearly broken and they just don't care. They just go, no, that is what we want that gun to be. So who cares what you say? That's what we want, and therefore that's what it will be. And it just gets boring, man. I just don't care for these studios that think that the way they want it equals the best way, because they've got, Activision, these studios, they've got a lot of experience. So I can understand why they might think. It even got that way with DICE for a while there, where they just thought it's their way or the highway, right? Because they've been doing it so long, they know better than us, whatever. But that's just not true. It's just simply not true. Like, you look at the average player of these games compared to the actual developers. I know for a fact, I'm not even like, high up there I'm not a pro gamer or something. I would absolutely dominate almost every developer that makes these sorts of games when I actually play it against them, because I've been playing these games as long as they've been making them. Yes, they make them. They don't always play them every day like we do. So they can say as much as they want about, like, we've been doing this longer, we know how to, make our games. I freaking play them. We all as a community play them. Like, we know what we want. Just because we don't develop
the community has way more hours put into playing Battlefield games than any of the developers, including the creator of the Battlefield series, has in any of the Battlefield games.
Yeah, and you see that a lot with, like, it's just every dev company. Of course, on every team, there's always, like, for example, with DICE, I'm sure you know Florian, like, he's a freak at Battlefield. Like, he's way better than me. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to what the player wants, because he's probably played more hours of Battlefield than I have. But 90% of the dev team, they would get demolished by most players because they're not necessarily playing the games that they're making. Of course, they play test them all the time and stuff, but, like, I don't think every, for example, DICE developer goes home and then plays Battlefield. Because they've been working on it all day. They want to probably go and play a different game, even not a shooter. They want to go play, like, a single-player game or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's just nice to have a change of pace in that sense, that there are studios now that they seem to listen. It was a bit the same with the finals too. They just clearly are actually able to listen and go, like, yes, we know what we're doing, but that doesn't mean we are, like, void of criticism and feedback. Because the players also know what they want, and at the end of the day, you need to nail what your players want, or they won't play the game. And what's the point of like, they make games so people play them and spend money on them. If no one wants to play the game, what is literally the point of making it? So you have to listen to your fans, and I think that's something that just hasn't been done for a long time, until really the last few years. It does feel like it's trending that way a little bit, but. Yeah, it's not as common as it should be, I think.
Yeah, very unfortunately. But we'll see where things go in the future, how things get adjusted, and I'm excited to see more details around Marvel Rivals, which is a very hard name to say continuously. Like, you have to do the Marvel Rivals. Like, there needs to be a gap in between those two.
I've realised, I think, because of an Aussie accent, it's easier for me to say Marvel Rivals. It just rolls off my tongue a little bit easier.
That's way better. Yeah. Marvel Rivals.
It does sound, like, when you say it makes me, like, tongue twisted thinking about it too. But then when I actually say it, it's, like, easier from my accent. So I never thought about that. It is a kind of weird name, actually.
Keep on bragging about your Australian accent, man. I'm not jealous of it at all.
Most things we say, it does quite the opposite, and we sound like idiots. So we're gonna take a win when we get.
I don't know, man. You guys call electricians Sparkies, and that's the best thing. Like, I still think about that probably once a week.
I love it. Yeah, but to be fair, most things that I think we've turned our own. We've got our own language borderline at this point, but most things that we say that other countries also regularly say. We just sound like such idiots. So I'm going to take this win that we can say Marvel
take
Rivals
the dub, man. Take the dub.
Without it being too much of an issue. Because most other sentences, that is not the case.
Yeah, you've got the advantage here with Marvel Rivals. Like I have to go into that very intentional.
Yeah.
Marvel Rivals.
That is I never thought about it until I heard you say it, because I've never heard anyone say it. I've just seen the title. I've never actually heard anyone say the name. And it is it's a very odd title for the game, actually. Marvel Rivals. Because if it was just called Rivals, I guess eventually it will just be called that. Like that's what people will call it. Same as like people just call it Siege, not Rainbow Six Siege. So I guess it will become that. But yeah, the whole thing is actually a bit of a mouthful saying Marvel Rivals, because I don't know. I think the 2 syllables for each word just sounds weird. I don't know, something about that.
There's also V's in each of them, and L's. Marvel, Rival. Like it's
almost the same sound for each word, which is the issue. It does, Now the name's ruined for me, unfortunately.
Yep.
I don't like it.
It's
anymore.
like when you say the word Sprite over and over again, and then it loses all meaning.
Yeah.
Or literally any word. Like you can turn any word into just
the most
like
basic. Just saying
bottle,
like
water bottle.
The word "and." If you say that 10 times over, you'll be like, "What the hell? What does that even mean anymore?"
What word am I saying now? Yeah. But let us know your thoughts on Marvel Rivals, the name as well as the gameplay experience. And are you burnt out on live service games? I think that was the real topic for this episode of like, what is the game space right now with live service games? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, check out Sammy Boy's YouTube channels. And if you're into Star Wars, check out Star Wars Uplink. As always, we'll see you later, video gamers.